Welcome back to Cord Cutting Today, where we break down some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting, including today, is Dish heading towards bankruptcy? We got all the latest information and some warnings about it. Most cord cutters are not planning to buy a new streaming player this year. Big bad news for major streaming companies like Roku, Amazon, and others. And Tubi sees very strong growth in its streaming in 2024 as free streaming services explode as cord cutters look to cut back. These stories and a whole lot more coming up in a quick second. First though, if you want to learn more about these stories, I'll put a link to each story in the show notes and in the first pinned comment. You can find them there. If you're new here, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, let YouTube know you enjoy what we do here so YouTube recommends our videos to more people. With that said, let's dive into it. Is Dish heading towards bankruptcy? New fears of this come up after kind of a lackluster earnings report last week. And Dish even brought up in a SEC filing not that long ago that there's serious concerns about its financial future if it's unable to raise substantial amounts of money. According to this, in the next month, it raises substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue going as a continuing concern because of it. Now, this comes as Dish lost over 348,000 TV subscribers in the first quarter of 2024, combining Sling TV and Dish, which both lost subscribers. Dish is very rapidly building out its 5G network. It needs a lot of cash to do that. It's pushing a lot heavily into it. Last year, about this time, it suffered or actually a little over a year ago now, March of 2023, it suffered a massive cyber attack that disabled its systems and prevented it from adding new customers and all kinds of issues, creating problems. Since then, Dish has struggled to find new investors. Now Dish is trying, after its EchoStar merger, which brings the two companies back together and actually puts it underneath EchoStar with EchoStar leadership taking over, trying to use EchoStar now to help raise funds. Now, if it's successful there, it should be fine. Is Dish doomed? No. Even if it goes into bankruptcy, I firmly believe this will just be a restructuring of its debt, allowing it to exit bankruptcy in a much better position and hopefully find ways to get its hands on the needed funds in order to finish its 5G build-out. I've long said I thought Dish was one of the more forward-thinking companies. Unfortunately, they've run into problems of finding the cash they need to finish the process. Dish was one of the first major TV companies to go into all-in on cord cutting with the launch of Sling TV. Remember, that was long before Hulu Plus Live TV, YouTube TV, all these others out there. Sling TV was first. With that, though, they've also said, hey, TV as in general is just probably not what we can hang our hat on. We need to find some other way to have our company be diversified so we can be profitable. Now, with that, they have gone and bought Boost Mobile and are building their own 5G network. The problem is they need billions of dollars to finish that in time for the required caps. I think that they overall have a good strategy here to diversify into mobile 5G data. That's as we continue to grow, wireless networks are going to become more and more important and more profitable in the long run. And being a competitor to T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, it's not a bad spot. It's the fourth largest provider of wireless services in the United States. Question is, can they find the capital to keep going? That's a real question mark. Can they get from where they are now to where they need to finish the build out of that 5G network so they can stop renting spectrum from and network services from T-Mobile, Verizon, and others? We'll have to see. I don't know. There is definitely serious question about the ability for Dish to finish this year without either finding major new investors or going into bankruptcy. Keep a close eye on this. Now, anything could happen, but it is definitely raising major concerns after the first quarter earnings, which were not all that impressive, unfortunately. So let me know what you think. Will Dish be in bankruptcy by the end of the year or not? I would love to hear from you. Now, we did a survey of over 1,000 of our readers asking you if you plan to buy a new streaming player, and if so, which one. Now, Roku again dominated that market, but interestingly, over 73% of you came out and said you have no interest or plans to buy a new streaming player in 2024. Now, I think what's happening here is the good enough situation. We've seen this in cell phones. Cell phones makers have struggled with the fact that their new next generation models of phones aren't that big of a jump over old ones, and increasingly people are saying my iPhone 13 is just good enough, or my iPhone 14 is good enough. I don't need to go get the iPhone 15. We're running into that problem with Roku's, Fire TVs, Apple TVs. Hey, my 2023 Fire TV 4K Max is excellent. I have no problems. There's nothing on here that I'm saying, oh man, if only. For most people, I got this. Hey, my current Roku Stick 4K, my Roku Ultra, works great. I have no desire to go out there. The other problem is, increasingly, smart TVs are becoming more common, where people are buying their Rokus or their Fire TVs built into their TVs, and because of that, people are much less likely to upgrade them. When you're spending 30 to 50 bucks on a new streaming player, you're happy to do that maybe once every couple of years. If you're spending hundreds of dollars on a new TV that you've mounted on the wall, you're not going to say, man, let me take that TV off the wall, go buy a new one because it's 15% brighter and 15% faster than the old one. Some people will, but a lot of people are going to just say, you know, that 50-inch Roku TV I got mounted in the living room, that's perfectly fine for me. I'm good. And that's led 73% of people to say that they don't have any interest in upgrading. This number has jumped from 62% when we started asking this question back in 2017. According to our readers, 64% of you use Roku, 8% of you use smart TVs, and 34% of you use Fire TVs. People who are looking to get new ones say 13% of you plan to get, or 13% of people say they're going to get a Roku, 4% said they're going to get an Apple TV, and 4% said Fire TV, and lastly, Google TV came in at just over 2%. The rest of you basically said, I do not intend to buy a new TV or a new stream player. You leave me a comment, let me know. Are you happy with what you have, or do you intend to get new ones? All right, let's keep moving along. Tubi recorded its earnings last week and saw a 22% jump in revenue and has hit 80 million active users, making Tubi one of the fastest growing streaming services, free or paid, on the market recently. I've said this before, cord cutters are cutting back on paid services. During pre-pandemic, 3 to 4 paid services was the average. During the pandemic, it rose to almost 6 or 7. As people were stuck at home, you weren't traveling, right? You're not making trips to Disney, you're not going to football games, restaurants like you were. So why not spend extra time in front of your TV with streaming services? Now that that's all over, since 2020, we've seen that number slowly tick down, and in our polls, once again, 3 to 4 streaming services paid are the average. To help offset that, we're seeing people dive into free services. I think Tubi, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, Freevee, Redbox, Plex, the Local Now, the list goes on and on and on, has a lot better content than it did in years past, and because that's attracting a lot more people. I know I said this, I've once again gotten in the habit, I kind of get in and out of it, of watching the Bob Barker era Price is Right online. It's kind of a fun thing when I'm into the day and I'm getting ready for bed and I have it on and getting in bed and scrolling through my phone to see what all the messages and everything are. Bob Barker's on. Price is Right. I feel like I'm back as a kid, sick, home, watching Price is Right at 11 o'clock in the local CBS. Let me know, have you had similar experience? Are you seeing more free stuff creep in to cut back? I still have a good number of paid services, but I'll be honest, if it wasn't for what I do, I probably would not have most of them. And the ones I do have, for example, the Disney bundle is still free with my Verizon because I'm on a plan that's grandfathered into a free Disney Plus bundle. I probably would only be paying for 2 or 3, to be honest with you. And then during football season, I'll get a live service like YouTube TV or Hulu, but only during football season. You leave me a comment, let me know if this trend is like you. All right, Sinclair could be selling 60 of its ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC stations. Sinclair's reportedly hired an outside counsel to look at selling up to 30% of its broadcast TV stations, which will include the CW in that also. They are also, according to earlier reports from Bloomberg, looking at selling the tennis channel as Sinclair looks to cut some of its networks to focus on other areas. This comes as Sinclair also recently sold its free streaming service Stir, right here, to another company, and it also sold its sports network Stadium out to a group in Chicago, which I think is also, the owners of that now are also part owners of the Chicago Bulls, if I remember that correctly. Sinclair is kind of offloading to kind of get back to maybe a little bit of its core business, as Sinclair runs into several issues. Of course, Bally Sports did not work out the way they probably wanted it to. Second is a weak ad market is eating into its ad revenue, definitely hurting it. The company reported an ad revenue of a total revenue of $798 million in the first quarter of this year. Keep a close eye on this. I would not be surprised to see some major companies try to buy this up, but I wouldn't be surprised if other companies, major owners of local TV stations, also try to unload a handful of their stations. And while again, this is just 30%, that'll leave them 70%. I'm sure they're looking at what is most profitable, what is the lowest cost, and what's the best return on them, and saying, hey, we have all these stations. Which ones do we really want here? What ones could we unload and use that cash to do something else with? We'll keep a close eye on that. Comcast has rolled out its new $30 internet. I know I talked about this briefly last week, but Comcast has rolled out its $30 internet without data caps nationwide to its full footprint. I had a lot of people ask, can you switch this if you're a current customer? I've been told, yes, you can. Some people have done it. They've had to call customer service to switch plans. Again, though, it's $30 for the 100 down, $40 for the 200 down. That's more than enough for 5+ 4K streams at once, plus checking your email and all the other stuff. I think a lot of people, if all you're doing is watching Netflix and checking the bank account, surfing Facebook or whatever it may be doing, it's probably more than enough for what you need. Now again, this is a prepaid one, no data cap, really nice feature. Check out all the details in the stories down below. And if you're a new cord cutter, I came up with 5 of my best tips for new cord cutters or people who've been cord cutters. Maybe these are a good refresher. If you want to check it out, check out the list in the show notes. I have a link to it there. My 5 best tips for cord cutting with that. All right, diving into the question of the day. I get a lot of questions about this. You know, should you get the annual plan? And I really want to say yes, for many reasons. But this question specifically was about Paramount Plus. First though, if you have a question for me, leave me a comment on this video and start off with something like a question for Luke. I know over the weekend I was traveling, I didn't get to answer a lot of questions in the comments. If I didn't answer your question here or in the comments, re-ask it and I'll do my best to answer it. But they ask, would it be smart to get an annual plan for Paramount Plus right now before they get sold off? Now Paramount is up for sale, though there's mixing reports that basically doesn't look like the deals are going to happen, or the deals are going to happen, depending on who you talk to. Oh, that is on me. I waited too long with this. Now with that, very simply, should you switch to an annual plan before that? I don't think much will change. If they do sell, Paramount Plus isn't going to change overnight. I do recommend annual plans right now to lock that in. For example, Peacock just announced a price hike coming this summer. If you lock in an annual rate right now, that price will not take effect until next year for you. Because if you lock it in now, you won't pay the new higher price until this time next year. Same with Paramount Plus. It's always a game here, right? When are price hikes coming? Sometimes you have warning like Peacock. Sometimes it's just like, hey, price hike is in effect today for new subscribers and previous subscribers when they renew or their next billing date. And then you're stuck because you're paying the higher. Locking in with an annual plan, A, is cheaper than paying monthly. B, helps avoid you if you're thinking about potential new price hikes. If it is a service that you believe you will be using all year, for me, Disney Plus. I have 2 young children in my home that love Disney Plus. We just did a road trip from Florida to Michigan, 18 hours of straight driving with a 2-year-old and an 11-year-old. The tablet, I mounted a little mount that went between the 2 headrests, and we played a lot of Disney content on the road trip. You know, in my mind, that's the perfect time for kids to be on the television. So when they get home, I say, go outside. But for me, I would pay an annual for that. There are other services where maybe I'm only getting it, like Paramount Plus. For me, I get when there's a show on it I want to watch and drop it later. So maybe for me, Paramount Plus is not a good fit. But for you, if you're subscribing to it all year, I highly recommend that you do pay for an annual plan. Lock in the straight up savings and help protect yourself against potential price hikes. Well, that could come up. I hope that answers your question. If you have a question, leave me a comment. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, let YouTube know you enjoy what we do here so YouTube recommends our videos to more people. Until next time, take care, be safe. I'll be back again real soon.